disappointing, to be honest.
Sometimes we've been spoiled these past few seasons. Apart from that, we have won many games, which is point at all. But we forget how tough life can be in the Championship. I always reckon, I'm not an expert like yourself, but I always think that the whatever we call the Vauxhall Conference nowadays and the Championship are probably two of the hardest divisions to get out of, because our generation will look through the Championship and see all former First Division sides there, just like they look through the Conference and see all former league clubs there. Wrexham have been down in that division for 14 years, for goodness sake. York are even lower than that now, so, you know, so how the mighty have fallen, but we've forgotten how tough this division is.
I think me and Speedy were just talking about that earlier on, and you look back, and some of you guys might remember, and some of you might not, back in the early 80s when we went back through that, climbed through the divisions, coming back down the other way, very similar, whereby the second season in the First Division didn't go too well. Tosh had to offload a lot of players at that time, and that really, the Championship, as you said, is such a hard league to play in. It was exactly the same. We started losing players, we started losing games. Before you know it, relegation kicks in by Christmas, and you just hope and we pray that that's not what we've got in our hands yet. But looking at today's game, you know, Bristol City were a well-organised side. They've been in the Championship for a number of years, very well organised, and we've got 41 games to go. That's a hell of a lot of games to go when you're looking on what is effectively, I think everybody probably agree with me, a bit of a threadbare squad, to say the least. You know, you pick up a couple of suspensions, pick up a couple of injuries, it's going to be a bit of a struggle. And let's pray to God somebody knocks some sense into those owners at some stage and tell us we need a little bit of experience in there from somewhere, and pretty damn quick.
So my big bugbear, and is in the middle of November, you like to see players in the middle of November on a Tuesday night not playing with leggings, not playing with gloves, and polo neck sweaters. In your day, if you were said to your coach, "I'm wearing these because I'm cold," what would have been the reaction?
I think you'd have been thrown out, Speed, wouldn't you? I don't think Tosh would have put up with that, would he? Let alone Bondi, Terry Arth, and have a chance. You know, it wouldn't have. I suppose I was the only one who got away with wearing gloves. Nobody else would have worn it. Nobody else would have worn it nowadays. But I've got a story. I tell you, I've got a story on that. And we talk about the Championship and how things are different today and how pampered players are. We played at Sheffield Wednesday. Hugo and Julie, you probably know because you probably organised the bus to go up there at that time. It would have been what, January, February '84, something like that. And you get everything put on these days, don't you? Boots, gloves, the lot. I get to Sheffield Wednesday to be told the lads have forgotten to put your gloves in. So bear in mind now, we've got snow on the ground, it's horrendous conditions, get to the ground, and I have to turn around to the great John Tosh. I can say, "Tosh, nobody's put my gloves in." What the fuck do I do? To be honest, what was the option? I had to go, cap in hand, to Martin Hodge, Sheffield Wednesday's goalkeeper, to ask him could I borrow a pair of gloves. That's how bad it was, to be honest. And when you think of that, that's probably, what, 34 years on. When you look at today's pampered footballers, never in a million years would that happen.
Well, today you would have gone to your nearest Sports Direct store, which...
yeah, which I don't think existed in those days.
Take us back to your early days then. Your local boy, you grew up watching the Swans?
Port Talbot, I grew up, my uncle was vice president at Swansea. I started going to the vets when I was 11. I was on progress to the North Bank when I was 12. And I always remember, I played for Avonmere. We won the Welsh Cup final at Britain Ferry in the morning, April, can't remember the date of it. Straight after the game, straight down to the Vetch. 1978, that was the first promotion against Halifax. 2-0 at the Vetch. So it was a great day all around for me. We won the Welsh Cup under-13s final in the morning, straight to the Vetch in the afternoon, stood on the North Bank watching us get promotion. And that was really the start of the roller coaster there. For you, I know Speedy was involved in the club at that time, and that was a magical time for us as fans because, you know, prior to me, my first days there, 75, 76, probably 500,000 people watching games. I was even there, I remember in Nigel Darling as a 16-year-old make his debut against Stockport. That's how long ago I remember. Sorry, was he 15 and 10 months, something like that, Speed? Yeah, remember that game. Remember that game well. That seems a generation, a whole lifetime ago, to be honest.
Was that wonderful experience when you walked up from the little enclosure area at the outside the North Bank, and you walked up the slope, and you just come over the little dip, and you caught sight of the pitch, particularly in the floodlights.
Yep.
As much as we love the Liberty Stadium, for all the Swansea City fans, that was an experience not to be repeated.
You can't match that, and anybody, I'm sure everybody here who stood on the North Bank will bear testimony to that. You know, it was a complete different experience, jumping up and down at the back, realising when you've landed there's nothing there because everybody else is doing the same. You know, it's the only last experience I had of that was about 20 years ago when I did the New York Marathon, running across the Verrazano Narrows, and that came to mind. As you were running, there were 40,000 people running across the bridge. As you were running, the bridge wasn't there, and immediately came back to me was that feeling on the North Bank when you're all jumping and it isn't there when you jump up.
So how do you go from Avondale to Swansea City?
There was a guy by the name of John Hedges. I don't know if anybody knows that name. He was the local scout, and I came up to Kevin Hengoid. That's where we did all the sessions as a kid. I used to come up a couple of days a week, signed schoolboys at 14, and then when I left school at 16, joined at 16, first professional contact at 18, and then I made my debut against Derby when I was 19. And what a lead in that is, because the person stood at the bar there, we won 2-0, I kept a clean sheet and he scored 2 goals. All around us, wasn't it? From two Tosh free kicks. That wasn't rehearsed, I just thought of that, yeah.
So when you first went into the Swans dressing room, first training session, who did you get most excited about seeing?
The 2 guys that I stood at the bar, two guys that I stood at Harry Griffiths' bar when I was 11 years of age. Kurt and Robbie. Kurt and Robbie, without a doubt. You know, they spoke to me when I was a kid, me and my brother, when I was 11 years of age in the Harry Griffiths bar, after most games. And then to walk into the change room and, you know, be teammates was just an incredible feeling, to be honest. And Kurt, as he is today, isn't he? And God bless Robbie. Yes. Wish he was with us.
I got lots of things to ask you, but we will take questions from the floor as well. Oh, Henry, got a question? I think you scratched your head, so I'll ignore that.
I haven't got a question, but I remember the Stockport game because I used to live in Lacca.
Yeah.
And we used to get the 1-1-2 into Swansea to watch the game. It was a Tuesday night. The Stockport game we talk about, I'll never forget it. Because at half time, I think we were 3-1 down. We were 4-0 down.
4-0 down.
4-0 down.
Yeah. 4-0.
And if you remember the old bus garage, we started to walk back to the bus garage at half time. And so all we could hear was the cheers. So I think Curtis and Robbie got in charge after half time. And we had 1 cheer. Then we had 2 cheers, and we were just getting past Belle's Cafe on the left-hand side, the Chippy, and we run back to the stadium and actually saw us go 4-all.
I think I've heard that story quite a few times from people over the years, to be honest. The more people run into the stadium than running from it.
Tremendous.
Yeah, it was. And I think that started, didn't it? Because, you know, that first promotion, 78, then the next season then, and I think, God bless him, Harry Griffiths played such a massive push in that. You know, that turning point in April when he died, and Tosh took that forward, and you know that was a difficult time. But then when Tosh did come in, then he stripped the team and put in place another side after that again, which paid dividends, and then followed by another promotion, Chesterfield last game of the season, for those people who were there. And it was just a natural train that had gathered momentum, and it was just a fantastic time to be
and because so many of the team were local, so even if you didn't know each other personally, you kind of had that connection that most of you had SA postcodes.
Yeah, and I think we've said that about today now, dropping down the leagues. You know, when you look at players, fans connect with players. Fans connect with players. And to see local lads out there today, like Conor Roberts, Joe Roden, you know, the likes we've had, because that's a long time coming since we've had the likes of Ben Davies, Joe Allen, the type of guys that you want in your side, that everybody connects with, everybody gets around, and if things ain't going for you, they pull you through that. And I think it is so important that we haven't had that over the Premier League years, to be honest, to be able to identify. We were talking earlier that the need to have a Joe Allen-esque type player at this club, you know, is vital. It's vital.
Take us through your first side then. Take us in the old-fashioned way. You start off at right back. Who was your right back and your left back?
Well, for us, in my first game,
yeah.
God blimey. I think, trying to think back through that first game, I think David Huff was at right back. And then, cool. Do you know what? I've actually got the team sheet pinned up in my scrapbook. I honestly can't remember what that side was. Apart from I knew Tosh was playing at sweeper in front alongside Speedy. And that's all I can remember from that day. It was just one of those exciting things that just passed by me. Winning 2-0. I can't remember what else.
Let me ask you this then. You mentioned Robbie, and you mentioned Kurt and Speedy and Wyndham, and Leighton and Robbie James, for goodness sake. How good were those players compared to the side that we've known in recent years?
I think you could probably throw that to everybody out here. Anybody that saw those players play, that I would always say, would those players get into today's team? Yeah. And I think everybody who was sat here would probably say exactly the same thing. You know, we went through a period a few seasons back where everything was great on the floor, but we kept on conceding goals from set pieces, balls thrown into the box. And I kept on saying, wish we had a Speedy to go and win those balls, head those balls out. You know, so, and you look at the likes of Kurt, you look at the likes of Robbie, Leighton, I've got no doubt at all they would walk into the sides that we've had in the last few seasons without any shadow of doubt. No hesitation.
Is the game better today? You know, with all its sponsorship and money and television, and does that make it a better game?
I don't know. What do you think? What do you guys think?
No.
I know what I personally think. I personally don't think. You know, as a young kid going to the veg, watching guys that I grew up, you know, idolising, I think that was the pinnacle for me. You know, the more we watch, the more money ploughed into the game. How many times do we see players go down, roll over? I know from a personal experience, the number of times that I've had elbows, kicks to the head, played on through concussions. You know, when I did have to quit, I never missed a game for 2.5 years despite being concussed. And I didn't have a clue what was going on in games, in the 2 games that it happened in. But you just got up and got on with it. Because I think you were afraid of losing what you had. Today, that's not the case. When you're earning 100 grand a week, you don't give a shit whether you miss a game or not. To be quite frankly, you know, but things were different in them days. They are completely moved on from where we're at today.
Vic Olsen made the point with the game against Man City last year, where we took a bit of a back ring. The only yellow card our players had was for diving. One of the boys got booked for diving. In a game like that, if you're going to challenge, you're going to get, somebody's going to get booked.
Somebody's going to get booked, but the thing is, as you say, in games like that, if you're not going to have much of the ball, which you're not against a Man City, then you go and make a challenge, go and make a booking, get the crowd up in the air, and get them on your side straight away. You know, I think things are completely different today. So players do stand off, and it makes it difficult for us to have a competitive game.
It's a difficult question for a goalkeeper. You only ask